Alright, I realized I didn't do a video yesterday. I meant to, and then Christmas shopping had to happen, and we went out for dinner, and then I came home and I passed out. Seriously, I had a long week. But now I've got a 3-day weekend thanks to the Yuletide season, and I've got this little cat who just will not leave me alone. Isn't that right, sweetie? And now she's angry because I picked her up. It's one thing if a cat comes into your lap and wants to sit on its own, but if you pick it up, then it's like, no, this isn't what I agreed to. Um, Last night's games. Um, I watched Pittsburgh and Columbus when it was 1-1 after one, and that's when I went out shopping. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good even game. Then the bottom fell out for Pittsburgh in the second and third, and Columbus seemed to understand. And I got it right from the beginning. Even though Pittsburgh scored first, I knew, Columbus had come to play, and that this was kind of a coming out party for them. This was a chance for them to show against the defending Stanley Cup champions that they're for real. And before the game, John Tortorella was quoted as saying, "It's just another game. It's no big deal." He'll say that, of course. Of course, he's going to say that. What else is he going to say? Oh no, if we lose this game, then we're crap. If we lose this game, it proves that we're not for real. No, he is, as a coach right now, at the top of his game as well. I honestly look at the score from last night's game and I'm stunned. I said I just passed out. I came up passed out. So, um, but I knew Columbus was capable of it. I saw things happening that told me that Columbus was going to break through. Pittsburgh started taking penalties, and Columbus is just lethal. Pittsburgh's lethal too, but when it comes down to it, Columbus is fantastic. They really are. And that is becoming abundantly clear. Yeah, wow, look at that. They scored 3 times in less than a minute in the third period. Hartnell, Sod, and Jenner. And then Hartnell got the hat trick at 6:24. It's it's nice to see Hartnell able to do that. It's nice to see Hartnell able to do it because he's one of my favorite players. He really is. He's one of my favorite players. Winnipeg beating Vancouver, that's not a stunner. One of the other games I was watching last night, Toronto, last I saw was up 5-0 on Colorado. And I don't know if the highlight packages showed it, but when Toronto made it 5-0, the reaction of a Colorado Avalanche fan in the front row was amazing. It was one of the greatest face palms I've ever seen. That was sort of like, what is going on? And he had his Avalanche jersey on and his kid next to him, and his kid's kind of doing the same, like, what? And it was just great. It was just absolutely great. The Kings beat Nashville. Tampa beat St. Louis. So they continue to back and forth. I watched the end of Boston beating Florida, of course. Tuukka Rask beating Florida. 29 saves, a few of which could be considered highway robbery. Ottawa beats Anaheim in overtime. New Jersey shutout. I'm going to assume that's Corey Schneider's. I'm going to go take a look. Schneider's stats have not been very good, so he needs a shutout. No, Kitty, you're not getting into that. Not getting into that stuff. Yep, Schneider 16 saves. See, and that's a New Jersey game. A New Jersey Devils game will be a shutout for the goaltender with about 16 to 20 saves, which is part of the reason why I've always argued that Martin Brodeur, one of the best goalies of all time. Sure, you can argue that, and there's somebody out there going, "How could you not argue it?" But a lot of his shutouts were of the 16 to 20 save variety. There were very few times he had to make 30, 35, 40 saves and get the shutout. Um, so I don't detract from his stats, but they were padded a little bit by New Jersey's defensive style. So that's not good for Florida, obviously, or Philly, I should say. I saw Florida on the screen here. So Carolina beats Buffalo 3-1. Carolina, honestly, if Carolina was in the Atlantic Division, they'd have a shot at the playoffs right now. They would. Even though Ottawa and Boston both won, they would have a shot. Um, the big game that everybody was talking about going into last night's action, other than Columbus and Pittsburgh, was Minnesota Montreal. And I figured Minnesota was going to win that game. Yes, I should have done a prediction video so I could have looked back today and said, see, I said Minnesota was going to win. But there is so much pressure. Oh my God, Jordan Schrader got a goal. But there's so much pressure on Canadian goalies. And the pressure on Carey Price with the injuries that are going on right now, it's going to be massive. There was also an article, or not an article, it was an interview that they had on Tim and Sid yesterday with one of the Montreal reporters about Carey Price. And it's about the fact that the temper tantrum he threw, the anger he showed at being pulled out of a game last week, that's what the reporters see all the time from him. See, Jason Botchford, who is a non-reporter in Vancouver, I don't even understand why he is so prominent, because he clearly has a disdain for anything Vancouver, and if they succeed, he'll pine for how great the team once was in '94, or he'll tear down any success they have and say it's unsustainable, or they're not that good, or he is very anti good feelings in Vancouver because I guess it doesn't sell papers for him or get him views online. But whatever it is, he seems to have it in his vested interest to watch Vancouver fail. Um, and when Joe Thornton was asked about the 4 goals in a game, what would you do if you scored 4 goals in a game? It was Jason Botchford who came out and said what Joe Thornton had said. I'm not repeating it here because it's whatever. But I was reminded of that when a reporter yesterday said Carey Price has temper tantrums regularly. It's not reported on. And it's not reported on because there are good reporters who understand that there's stuff that's off the record. And then there's a guy like Botchford who thinks everything's on the record if you can hear it. But it reminded me, too, of Patrick Roy. Patrick Roy had a horrible temper. He was kind of a prick. Belfour, bad temper, kind of a prick. Sean Burke, bad temper, total prick. Tom Barrasso, oh, you didn't want to see Barrasso in a bad mood either. And I mean, Tuukka Rask had a famous meltdown when he was in Providence and got pulled out of a game. How many times have we watched a goaltender, Roberto Luongo, gets pulled out of a game a couple weeks ago, almost takes his own player's head off with his stick when he goes to the bench. Goaltenders being temperamental and being angry, it is part of the game and is part of the job of being a goaltender. When you're a goaltender, you have to view yourself as being the guy who wins the game. You are the guy who stops everybody on the other team. And somebody asked Price, and I'm trying to remember who the reporter said it was, asked Price, do you think you should have been able to stop X goal? I don't remember which goal it was. And this was from a previous time that he lost a game. And Carey Price's answer was, I expect to stop all of them. So for Carey Price, a game like last night, they lose 4-2. And I guarantee, not a happy camper. He only allows 3, the forced and empty netter. I guarantee, though, he's not happy with his performance. You look at it, I mean, he allowed 3 goals on 26 shots. Not a bad game. But I guarantee Price after the game was pissed off at himself. And that's how he is. That's how the best goalies are. That's how they become the best goalies. And often that's the case with star players. They have a bad temper, so fans will meet them and go, "Guy was kind of a prick." Yeah, that's probably what makes him what he is, because he's not satisfied with just being as good as everybody else. He wants to be better than everybody else, and a goaltender even more so. The days of the lovable, affable goalie who goes, "Well, we'll get him next time." The John Garrett type goaltender, the Darren Pang type of goaltender. No. These goaltenders are very competitive. They're very intense, and they do not accept failure. So, Minnesota wins that game. It's a huge win for Minnesota. They're up to 9, and Columbus is up to 11. And if you look at the standings this morning, Columbus is the number 1 team in the league, and they're justifiably the number 1 team in the league. And the scary thing is they got games in hand on a lot of teams. So, it's not that simple. Now, of course, there's some games being played tonight. Boston's in Carolina. It'll be interesting to see how Pittsburgh does tonight at home against New Jersey after getting spanked last night. And for Columbus, they don't play again until they're at home against Boston on the 26th. Or no, I'm wrong. They're at home tonight against Montreal. I will watch that game because that's going to be fun because you got Montreal on the road, Columbus at home. They're going for 12 going into the Christmas break. You got Montreal, who likely doesn't play Price. That game is going to be very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch. Does Montoya shut down Columbus? He's capable of doing it once in a while. Does Columbus get to 12? How far does this go? But looking at the standings, Ottawa is now within 3 points of Montreal. Boston is within 7 points of Montreal. Montreal has games in hand on both of them. Here's where it gets interesting. Columbus is leading the Metro Division with 48 points in 31 games. They are 1 point ahead of Pittsburgh and the Rangers, but they have 3 games in hand on Pittsburgh and 4 games in hand on the Rangers. They have 5 games in hand on Philadelphia, who's 4 points behind them. And Washington has played the same number of games as Columbus, and they're 6 points back. So that is a crazy top 5 for that division. Tampa is 5 points back of the next wild card spot, which is held by Washington, and they're down 3 games. Like Washington's played 3 less games, but Tampa is only 2 points behind Boston, and they have a game in hand on Boston. So that's the difference between the Metro Division, where you got 5 great teams, and the Atlantic, where you've got 2 good teams, and then it just sort of falls apart. And in the West, Chicago is still leading the way. Although Minnesota now is 4 points back of Chicago with 3 games in hand. And they just look deadly. Their goal differential is up to 33. That is an indicator of whether a team's really good or not. And it's kind of crazy looking at it right now and seeing where the standings are. That win for Winnipeg means that they move within 1 game of fake 500 again. They're actually 4 games below 500 if you take out the loser points. But they're only 1 point back at Calgary, who's got the last wildcard spot. So the West is not anywhere near as tough as the East right now, which is, for a guy as old as me, that's strange to see and strange to say. And for Vancouver, they now sit 5 points back of the playoffs with 1 game in hand on Calgary. But for Vancouver to make the playoffs, they have to pass Dallas, Winnipeg, Nashville, Calgary. So, the odds of that happening are slim. And for Colorado, 23 points now in 32 games. They're 10 games below 500 if you take out the loser point. They're 9 games below 500 if you include the loser point. Their goal differential is minus 40, and it just keeps getting uglier. That 6-0 loss at home to Toronto last night, that's probably bottom. But with the way Nathan McKinnon was talking before that game, I'm sorry. Colorado has to figure out between McKinnon and Duchesne which guy's going to lead the team and trade the other one. And they need to reinvigorate the franchise. They got to figure something out because Colorado looks just destroyed. Absolutely humiliated. And that loss at home to Toronto is just going to get in the mind of a guy like McKinnon or Duchesne. These are young players too. And it's going to get in their heads that they're crap and there's nothing you're going to be able to tell them to prove otherwise because the standing shows they're crap. Colorado right now is the worst team in the league. There's no doubt in my mind. And that fan that reacted all aghast and disgusted at that 5-0 goal by Toronto, since he's in the front row, he's probably a season ticket holder, and it's probably one of those nights where you go, "What? Why do I pay to go through this? Why am I paying for this?" So I'm sure there are season ticket holders in other cities as well. I mean, Arizona isn't doing much better. Arizona's played one more game than Colorado, and they got 4 extra points. I watched both the Arizona game against Edmonton and against Calgary, and that team is really bad. And the fact that their most impressive forward in both games was probably Verbata. The fact that their color guy, and I don't know if it's Roenick, I don't know who their color guy is, but that's some pretty biased announcing. The thing that I'll say is this: Zach Kassian comes in, dirty hit on Ekman Larsson. Ekman Larsson was fine. Cassian's thrown out of the game. 5 for fighting, 10-minute misconduct, game, 5 for charging or boarding, whichever call they gave him. And then, Duclair comes in. Of course, Cassian throws the gloves off as soon as he's hit Ekman Larsson because he knows the whole team's coming in after him. And the next thing that happens, The next thing that happens is Doan coming in. And again, I'm not sure who the color guy is for Fox Sports Arizona, but he's like, "Yeah, here comes the farm boy. Yeah, you're not such a big man now, are you, Cassie?" And I'm like, "Is this guy really saying this?" Even Yvonne, who was sitting here listening with me, she's like, "What? The announcer's saying that?" I'm like, "Yeah, these guys are really biased." And then he throws him to the ground, and he kept mentioning farm boy, Shane Doan, the farm boy, that farm boy. And I'm like, does he have to mention the farm all the time? He's 40 years old. He's been playing hockey for 21 years. He's a little separated from the farm. Like, and then I waited on the next faceoff, and I'm like, he's gonna mention the farm again. He's like, "Yeah, just threw him to the ice like a barrel, like a bale of hay." But what got me too was that he even said, "Yeah," and he hits his head on the ice too, and I'm like, okay, so the announcer just celebrated a guy's head being slammed on the ice? Are we at that stage? Have we? Is this an outlier? Is this just some crazed announcer, or do we as fans? Because I don't cheer when a guy's head hits the ice. I don't care who it is, and yes, even if it's Ryan Kessler, I don't cheer when his head hits the ice. Rivero, I don't care. Guy's head hitting ice is not something to celebrate. It is concussive. It is, and it really did. If you look at it, Doan flings him down. It's not like anything major happened there. And Cassian's head did not really hit the ice. But just the fact that an announcer would just almost jump out of his, he could have jumped out of his chair. I have no idea. I couldn't see him. But just the idea that he just jump up like, "Yeah, seriously? Has he hit Ekman Larsson? You're gonna jump up and cheer that?" I mean, like, for me, I mean, we'll go back to, the Kadri hit when Hansen went in. I cheered when Hansen fought Kadri because that was pretty cool for Hansen. That was a fight. I didn't cheer somebody's head hitting the ice. Dear Lord. But anyways, so that's my opinions on hockey from last night, and I guess from the night before as well, because I didn't have a video up yesterday. So I'll remedy that today. There will be videos up today. But yeah, crazy stuff. Let me know what you guys were watching last night, if you watched any of the hockey last night, what you'll be watching tonight, and which part of the standings right now are most of a surprise to you guys. Of course, I've been over Columbus and Minnesota. I talked about Florida being a disappointment, and I haven't been very happy with these guys in general lately because they keep leaving their goaltender to bail them out. You can't do that. And they did it again last night. So they win the game, but I'm still shaking my head saying the goalie's the only reason they won the game. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I will talk to you all again soon. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you were just passing through. This channel hit 1,600 subscribers yesterday. Very exciting. Very happy about it. Passed it. So I appreciate everybody who's here, everybody who's, tuning in to watch my videos, and you will be rewarded with more content today and even through Christmas. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.